This is my physical model of the flat earth for Wolfie6020's flat earth Equinox challenge. The overall diameter is 2,400 mm with a radius of 1,200 millimeters. So we have a radius of 1,200 millimeters. And each 100 millimeters is equivalent to 15 degrees latitude, and every 10 millimeters is equivalent to 1.5 degrees latitude. Because of the scale of the radius of 1,200 millimeters, the flat earth sun for this model, I'm working on say a 40 mile diameter sun at 3,000 miles high. That would put the flat earth scaled sun at about 3.84 millimeters. This halogen glow is about 10-12 millimeters, so it's too big. But we can scale the height, and the scaled height will be 290 millimeters based on the scale. So we have the right height based on 3,000 miles above this flat earth. Okay, I've got the nails lined up from 60 degrees north to 60 degrees south. And I've also marked some little dots on the actual map itself, a little pointer. And what this will do is that with these little dots through here, they're actually lined up east and west. So you've got north, south and latitude, and we've got east and west from that position. So during when I park the light source for sunrise on the east, we should get a shadow pointing directly out to the west side on all these latitudes going through here. What I've also done is, like we also on the equator, we know in reality that the shadow follows in a straight line over the equator. So we should see a straight shadow from all these nails on the board through here. This demonstration has been replicated using a physical globe and using a single point light source in the previous challenge, and it worked extremely well. So let's see how this one goes. Okay, we've got the sun positioned at 90 degrees, parked over the equator. This is to simulate the sunrise on a flat earth. So all these, the sun shadow should be following that dotted line. You can see the actual shadow angles are incorrect. Here's all the shadow angles on the equator. And even high as 60 north. Not following. Shadow path should be facing west. So what we're going to do now, we'll place the sun in motion, see what happens. Sun approaching over the equator. Finally we get the will stop it. It gets over. Simulate sunset. As we can see, all the shadow angles are completely wrong. As we can see again, following the equator, the only time the sun casts no shadow is directly over local noon. And there you have no shadow. But once it passes, the shadow angles become completely wrong. It should be following a straight path. Like I said, this has been simulated on a physical globe using a single point light source, and it worked very well. Okay, that's sunrise. Over noon. And sunset. Okay, what I'm showing you here, that if you're in Sydney, roughly 34 south, when looking due east, which I've marked parallel 90 degrees off there, due east with these markers, you should be watching the sunrise due east. So we're going to simulate that on the flat earth. Okay, we're now looking due east from Sydney, lined up with these two nails. The flat earth sun is not approaching sunrise just yet. Comes around, it's approaching sunrise right about now. And that's where it is. That's sunrise. The sun should be coming up for here. Yes, the sun should be rising directly up, coming up east, arcing over. That's not what's happening. Just one quick thing about this mount, because of the size of the mount. I have it positioned over Australia, indicated by these marks here, directly over Sydney. But you can see the scope's quite offset. But it still won't change the angle that when the scope actually tracks through the sky, it's still going to go through on the same arc. So I've positioned it over Australia. If we were to reposition the scope, so it's actually sitting over Sydney, so there for example, it's still going to give you the same arc, it just means it's going to be set back a bit more. Right now, positioned where it was, this should give us the same arc coming right the way up there in the demonstration. See it tracking up, completely different path. actually loses tracking again. You're on a completely different path. Right, it's proving to be quite difficult to get this right because as the sun's coming around, different speed, it speeds up through here, so I've got to keep throttling the equatorial mount to speed up to track the sun even faster through here as it does over through, well, it's not going to track the sun through this way, it's way off track, it's going in a different direction altogether. But we're going to try it one more time, and I think that should do it. Okay, this time I've got the EQ mount placed roughly over where Sydney is. You can see by these dotted lines through here. That's facing, looking due east and due west. There's a straight edge to point. Well, you can see the laser pointer on the end page there, where it's starting out. This is just a briefly, as the mount starts to rotate. So the laser there. And there we go, setting due west. So the sun's circling around, ready for sunrise. The equatorial mount turned on. And sunrise through there. I have to adjust the speed of the equatorial mount just a little bit, just to make sure that we get the pick up the tracking. Just stop it there for a second. So it tracks it, and then loses tracking. But as you could see from the couple of demos we did, following a completely different path, and only within this small section through here was it able to actually track the sun. Once the sun's passing its arc through on the flat earth, using one axis of rotation, the equatorial mount just kept on tracking all the way down to sunset.